My parents got divorced when I was 4. We went to go live with my mom. She was in the Army. We went to go live in Germany. We came back when I was 7. And I'm not quite sure what happened at that point. There was an argument between my older sister and my grandmother at the time. And from that moment, we were kicked out. Literally, I don't, like I said, I don't remember what exactly happened. You know, when you're 7, you don't remember those details. I distinctly remember being on the side of the road with a backpack, waiting for my dad's girlfriend to pick us up because we had nowhere else to go. I didn't know how that specific event was probably gonna change my life, and how that moment brought in rejection, because I felt very rejected by my grandmother. It's your grandmother. She's always supposed to love you and send you birthday cards and never let anything happen to you. Later on, I realized that that was a huge point of where rejection came in, and a huge bitterness towards my grandmother for kicking us to the street. My fight for freedom started, like I said, probably in my mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s. It's still an evolution. Started with me just writing a letter to her. Dear Donna. I couldn't even call her grandma, because at that point, she still wasn't a grandma to me. She was a first name, Dear Donna. And just laying it all out on the line. This is how you hurt me. This is how it's affected me. This is what has happened since that day when I was 7, when you kicked me out. And this is how those events have transpired to how I felt as a teenager, how I felt as a 20-something-year-old, how I feel as a woman today. I think the next big step that I took was asking God for forgiveness. God, just give me that strength to be able to love her and see her as you see her. See her as a child of God, not as a grandmother, not as a mother, not as a sister, but she's a child of God, and I need to see her as you see her. The goal in mind and the picture that I had was just of a person that was happy with their past and okay with it. It is something that's part of my story. It's part of the plan that God had provided for me, and those things were going to make me stronger, and not to relish in those events or those situations that happened that weren't any of my control. It didn't matter that I was a 7-year-old on the side of the road with a backpack. It mattered that God loved me, and that I needed to go to Him as my source for acceptance and for love and for worthiness, and not to the events in my past. Knowing about the enemy maybe started when I was 15, when I accepted Christ and Jesus into my life. I was like, there is an enemy? What? And he wants bad for me? And I started realizing I gave him the keys. I gave him the map. I gave him everything he needed to hurt me. Let's start realizing that God has a better plan for me. And if I can figure out how to stop those and giving him the keys, then I'm working on how to get the keys from God. And start realizing that I have the power, that God has given me the power and the authority to stop that. As a woman of this age and still being single, there are plenty of times where you can start hearing those voices again. And those feelings of rejection and bitterness and unloving all come right back into your head. It was a powerful thing for me to be able to tell myself, hey, you need to go to the Word, and you need to remember what the Word says about you, that you're loved and you're beautiful, and that Jesus died for you. Fighting for my own freedom is fabulous. It is the most exhilarating thing that I can think of, is when you start putting those pieces of the puzzle together and you're like, hey, last year I felt this way about myself, and a year later I don't feel that way about myself. To me, being free is fabulous.